What's up, everybody? It's Connor and Joshua with Chamber One Tactical. If you guys haven't already seen, we just came out with a video featuring the CZ P10C ported. We went over what is special about this gun and what CZ has brought to the table in adding a port to a already fantastic firearm. So we thought, what better gun to compare it to than the Springfield Echelon comp. So we're going to be going over the differences between the guns, which gun does better in certain places, and what gun we would honestly recommend to you guys. So let's get into it. So the first thing we typically go over is price, so we're going to do that in this video as well, and I know Joshua wants to go a little bit more in depth on what really sets these guns apart in price. So Joshua, if you want to start off with the CZ.
Yeah, so at the time of filming this video, obviously this is still a new gun, so when we first bought it, the day it came out, I knew I wanted it. I paid $549.
Yep.
We've seen it already consistently on Palmetto State's daily deals. As a new release, it's not actually that they're posting it for a deal, but for $499, so right at that $500 mark. I will note that an optics plate, it does not come with the optics plate. That's another $50. We're going to talk about that in a little bit when we talk about the features. And then just going over the Springfield Echelon comp. So this model right here is going to be around the $650. So of course you might find some deals here and there. And then just so you guys know, which we're going to talk about later on as well, a frame, if you were to buy a new frame for it, it's going to be around that $65 mark.
Okay, and you did say, so the plate's going to be $50 here,
yes.
And on the Echelon, will you have to put any extra money into it?
No.
Okay.
We'll talk about that, when we go over the slides and all that.
Now, two differences, or another difference is the CZ P10C is going to have a standard 15-round magazine, and then they also give you, and it comes with two mags, but they also give you a +2 extension, which will get you up to the 17 rounds.
Yep.
The Springfield's going to come with 17 round and one that already has the extension on there, which I think there's a +3, so you're getting a 21 round gun, or I'm sorry, a 20 round mag. So you have the capability on the Springfield to have two 17 round or two 20 round.
Right.
The CZ, you have the capability of having two 15 or two 17.
Yep.
So a little bit difference in the actual round count, and that will come into play a little bit when we start talking about the size of these two guns, because there's not a huge difference.
Right.
But moving on, if you want to, you guys should already have videos out there for you from Chamber One Tactical going over the specifics of these guns, what is good about them. We're going to run through just real quick the features of the guns, but more importantly, which one did a better job.
Yes.
Because when we start comparing stuff, that's what we want to know, is which one did it better.
Yep.
So Joshua, if you want to kind of go over and compare the slide cuts and the slide serrations.
Yeah, so this is actually an upgrade from the original P10. They basically added some serrations on top that was not there previously, so that's a nice addition. Of course, we have the port up front, and that's kind of the whole point of comparing these two guns right here. They did put some deeper slide serrations as well when they redid the slide serrations. There's less of them, but that doesn't really matter.
Right.
Having the deeper ones is really what matters. And then, of course, the Echelon, I'll let you talk about it because it's on your side. Of course, it's one of the best.
Yeah, so the Echelon, we've actually we've actually really fallen in love with this gun because of how well they did everything on the slide. So the slide serrations are about probably the same depth as the CZ, but what's cool about the Echelon is they actually taper that slide down as it comes closer to the chamber, so that even if you did slip off the slide serrations, your hand would still run into kind of a shelf that they've made right there, and it works very well.
Absolutely. Especially for press checks.
Oh yeah. So aesthetically and functionality, the actual slide serrations on this gun are good looking and they are functional. So I don't really know. It's hard to say between the two which one would be better. Me personally, I actually gravitate towards the ingenuity of the Echelon. They did a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, this one's not bad, but I can say that the Echelon did better. Even in the rear, they have those tabs too.
Yeah, and the CZ, like Joshua said, it was an upgrade versus the prior models. They did do a little bit better, but it's hard to beat. I would say it would be hard for any gun to kind of stand up towards the Echelon slide cuts. Moving on to another important thing is the sights on the guns. So if you want to go over the CZ sights.
Absolutely. So me and Connor have never really been a fan of CZ carry pistol sights. They put these basically what we call glow-in-the-dark sights on there that get charged by the sun. The reason we don't like them, we like having night sights, but when you actually use the gun and you actually carry it, let's say you put it in appendix carry, your rear sights are going to get charged a lot more than your front sight. Your front sight's basically being covered by a shirt, covered by the holster, and it's down in a little dark pocket, right? So when you actually pull that gun out in a dark or low light environment, you're not going to be able to see your front sight, which is the more important sight to see of any of them. So we're not a huge fan of them. And then, of course, I'll let you talk about the Echelon. The Echelon is a little bit better.
The Echelon, you have the standard U in the back, and then your front sight is going to be a tritium filled with the green, or some people maybe yellow, green or yellow ring around it. And this is actually a great sight setup for me. I really like the sight setup that they put on the Echelon. Again, they did upgrade the CZ sights. They changed a couple things about it. The shape of them, they made it a little more narrow, so it's easier to get your sight picture. If you're shooting further away, it's easier to see your target. And they also put some grooves in there to keep from glare. But I at the end of the day, I think that for a gun that's going to be carried, the sight setup on the Echelon is probably what I would gravitate towards.
Absolutely.
The only thing CZ needs to do, and we've been begging CZ to do this, is just put tritium in their sights.
And maybe a different color front sight.
Yeah, that would actually be perfect.
Make it pop.
Yeah. So I mean, again, which is kind of weird, didn't think this would happen, but again, I think the sight setup needs to go to the Echelon, just because I think it's a little bit better option for a carry gun.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the frame, if you want to move on to the frame, and go ahead if you want to start with the Echelon and explain
while
what
we're on the slide. Do you want to talk about the optic cut while we're there?
That's a good
because that is kind of connected to sights as well. So if you want to run an optic, that's kind of at the very beginning of the video. We brought up the price point. The reason I talked about an optic plate being $50 for the CZ was because it comes optic cut, but it doesn't come with an optic plate out of the box. So I just wanted that to be noted. Whereas the Echelon, it comes out of the box ready to go to be able to throw on just about any optic on there. So just keep that in mind. And then, of course, if you're getting the CZ branded one, you might also have to pay shipping on top of that. So that might vary. They do have some other brands that you can buy. So, for instance, I bought one that wasn't CZ branded, and out the door after shipping and all that, it was around $45. So there are options out there.
Yeah, and I mean, like you're saying, when you start talking about cost of the guns and what you have into a gun after it's all said and done, on the Echelon, you can put whatever optic you want. From what we understand, any optic that is a pistol, actual pistol optic is going to fit on this gun. With the CZ, if you have something that's an RMR footprint, you're fine just buying an RMR plate. But then if you go to change to a different footprint, you're going to have to spend another $50. So if you're looking for a gun that you're going to be able to throw different optics and do different tests on different optics, then you may want to gravitate towards the Echelon, because you're going to end up spending more money on the CZ when you keep having to buy different plates. So,
and I will say they both did a good job. You keep your rear sight when you add an optic, so at least they did do that.
And they both will co-witness
Yes.
with certain optics. I'm not going to say all optics will work, but both optics that we've tried on the guns have been able to co-witness. Absolutely. So that is nice. But moving on to the frames, because I think this is where they start kind of getting set apart a little bit.
Yep.
On the Echelon, as you guys know, if you don't know, this is a modular system. So you have, similar to a SIG, you're going to have a fire control unit that sits within the frame. So the frame is not serialized, the actual fire control unit is serialized.
Yep.
So like Joshua was saying, you can actually change out this lower and put a compact frame on there and keep the slide length that you have to make it more, easier to carry for a little bit shorter frame. And as far as like everything goes on texture, they did a really good job keeping everything somewhat mild. There's not a lot of rough texture like we've seen with other guns. The texturing is not over or underkill. It's kind of right there in the sweet spot. And then the overall feel of the frame is very comfortable. I like the flares that they put out. I just flashed them. I like the flares that they put out on the sides of the frame where your thumb can rest on that shelf.
Yeah.
I do like the way that feels when shooting. And like I said, the overall being able to change out the frame, this gun was originally all black. So Joshua was able to go buy the, lower module, and he only had $50 into a lower that he can change up the color, he can change up the side. With a CZ, you're kind of going to be stuck with what you have.
Right.
But if you want to go over the aesthetics and the texture on that.
Absolutely. So like Connor was saying, you're stuck with what you have, but right now CZ has it in the compact form. So it's going to be a 15 round mag, but you can obviously, like we were talking about before, you can put extended mags, or you could put the CZ P10F mags in there if you wanted to. They're all based off the same platform, right? So whereas, the Echelon, right now they do not have a compensated version of the compact that they have in the Echelon. They do have a compact frame, so $65 you're in addition to be able to get something that's more suited for carry, or else you're stuck with a 17 round grip. But yeah, I mean, they're known for having great stippling and great texture. What me and Connor really like about it is the rear, the back strap, and the front are very aggressive, and they're going to leave a little bit of a mark on your hand.
Yeah.
So it really helps you lock down and manage the recoil on this gun. But the sides, they do have texture, but one thing that's good about them is they're not picking at your shirt because they're super fine.
Right.
It's really good. It's easy against your skin, too, when you carry appendix. So we really like the frame. And, of course, you can get so high up on these guns. They're just so comfortable. And there's just something about the P10s. They point so naturally.
They do.
And they do have some textured places to put your finger and also to rest your thumb on. It's not necessarily beveled out like the Echelon is. So I think the Echelon actually wins there as far as the molding, to be able to put a shelf to lock down on it.
Yeah.
These are more of just a memory pad as far as where to put your finger. But ultimately, I mean, there's really no problem with the frame.
No, and the only main difference is, if this matters to you, if you're a wrong-handed shooter, this frame and this gun is going to be a true ambi gun. So it already comes with the mag release on both sides, so you can use it. You don't have to go and switch it around like you would on the CZ, and the slide stop slide releases are on both sides, as the CZ is as well. The only thing, you'd have to switch your mag release around, which is not a huge deal. But as far as which one did a better job on the frame, obviously CZ does not have a modular system yet. That would be something cool to see CZ do. But I actually prefer, it's weird for me to say because I really like the frames on the Echelons, but I prefer the overall texture and feel and the just natural point of aim of the frame of the CZ. Again, the Echelon's not bad. They actually did a really good job, but I think CZ did a better job with the stippling, the texturing, and just the natural point of aim on that gun. I really like the way the gun points. So I'd have to give that one to CZ. What do you think?
I agree with that. This molding from the grip, if we're just talking about the grip, the CZ fits the hand more naturally and fills those corners just perfectly. Whereas this one seems to be a little bit round.
A little fat.
A little bit fatter than the CZ. So this one, I would say, the whole grip angle and everything just allows you to point naturally and feel the hand much better. But I would say from here on, where you actually rest your thumb and your finger, the Echelon kind of wins as far as their molding and all that.
Yeah, and obviously
I think the grip is more important.
It being modular is also...
Yes.
It's hard to say which one's better. It just depends on what's important to you.
Stock, I would say the CZ, but there's a ton of aftermarket support
Yeah.
for that, so it's kind of up in the air on that one.
Now, getting into one of the most important things,
Mm-hmm.
this is probably the second most important thing, is the trigger.
Yes.
Because they are so different.
They are
They're alike that they're good triggers, but they're different.
Mm-hmm.
So, me personally, well, we'll look at them real quick.
Yeah.
So with the Echelon, you have a little bit of take up, very little really, take up, and there's really not much any resistance at all. And then once you get to that wall, it's a very clean brake, and then a very short reset, and right back to the brake. So it's a good trigger pull.
Mm-hmm.
The face of the trigger is very smooth. There's not any hot spots on there. It just doesn't have as much throw into the reset.
Mm-hmm.
Now this trigger, I think this is something we brought up in the video about this gun, was actually upgraded from the original Echelon.
Yes,
So the original one had a little bit more mush to it, and you'll notice on this one there's really no movement other than the trigger braking. So they did fix what was wrong with the original Echelon, but the trigger is fantastic in this gun. If it had just a little bit more force on the reset, pushing your finger out, it would be pretty close to perfect. But they did a really good job on that trigger, and I've been very impressed in how fast we can shoot this gun because how good that trigger is.
Yep.
What about the CZ?
The CZ, I think there's no doubt about it. It's going to have a much more distinct wall.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
though that one is good and the brake is good, there's still a little bit of squishiness.
Sure.
Just very minimal. Not with the CZ. I mean, you have your trigger safety here. You have the take up, and it just comes directly to a wall. Brake.
Yep.
And then the reset, super short, super tactile, very loud. I'm sure you guys can probably hear it on camera. You know, it's very easy to learn
And I think
remember.
that's part of why I prefer the CZ is you can feel the trigger much more in the CZ. The Echelon, there's a little bit, it's not even that the trigger mechanism is mushy, it's just there's not a lot of feel when that trigger goes off, and there's not a lot of feel when it resets. You feel everything with the CZ. When you pull that trigger, you feel it. When you reset, you can hear it, and you can feel it in your finger that trigger has reset. And I really like that when you're talking about just a repeatable trigger pull. CZ's got it.
And I think that the CZ brake is probably heavier
It is,
than the Echelon, but the reset has also got more force throwing your finger back forward. So I would say if you're just talking about trigger, let's say you didn't care about any hits, you were just working the trigger, probably going to be able to work the CZ a little bit faster.
Yeah, and I honestly think when the pull is close in weight, the reset is much more important than just a little bit less, pull weight.
Right.
So I think if you're gonna have to pick one, the CZ has a better trigger, and that's hard for me to say because we were impressed with the Echelon. With how well they did on the trigger, but it's hard. It's going to be hard for any gun to compare to the trigger that CZ puts in the P10 series. So finally, we have what's the most important, because these are ported or comped guns, is performance on the actual comp. So with the Echelon, obviously we've already done a review on this gun, and we've gone through and kind of shown how well this gun performs. But for one, aesthetically, they did a really good job in making that gun look really cool with a little bit more angled cut, as opposed to a lot of companies that just give you a straight on cut. They gave you a ton of room for those gases to escape, and this comp performs very well. It does a good job of keeping the muzzle rise down and really softening up that recoil. The only thing that this gun doesn't have going for it as far as the performance and lowering recoil is the slide is sitting a good bit higher on your hand than the CZ. So you are going to feel a little bit more muzzle flip, a little bit more recoil, and I think the only reason that you're going to feel that is because just the ergonomics and the design of the gun. So obviously if Joshua holds up the CZ, you can see how much higher this slide is sitting over my hand than the CZ would. So the comp does a lot for this gun. When we compared it to the standard Echelon, you can really tell a difference. But in comparison to the CZ, and I'm going to let you explain it, it's just not enough.
Yeah, I mean, it really surprised me, because typically if you have a longer slide with a compensator, I guess just having more leverage and more weight up front, you're going to have less muzzle flip. Maybe not, So anyways, It was just really surprising that the Echelon actually had a little bit more muzzle flip than the CZ-P10. I was really, really surprised. I did not expect that at all.
It was more noticeable than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
You know, I thought they were going to be close.
Like, oh, it's,
right.
I mean, okay, it's close, but it's not super close where it's not noticeable. Yep. You know what I mean? It was, we could very distinctly say, without a doubt, the CZ-P10 had less muzzle flip than the Echelon.
And we had 6 or 7 guns that are all comped or ported, laid out on the table, and we very methodically went through each one. We would shoot and see which gun had the least amount of recoil that was ported and which one came out on top.
This one. Well, we did have a couple missing out that maybe would have beat it. Like my Prodigy.
Yeah,
that one
really
she's
count.
pretty flat. We didn't have that one on the table.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys want, we might need to update our... We actually did a comp video where we reviewed all the different comps that we have, comped handguns. And we've had a lot of additions since then, so we might need to update that.
Yeah.
So I think you gave a little bit of a spoiler on how well that one did. But yeah, I mean, the CZ just performs so well with the way that the grip, you're able to lock down on it. So you're fighting with your hands, which is great. Then the port is fighting for you. It's a big old hole in the end of the barrel. I mean, it really helped out as well. And then, of course, having low slide mass and being able to get so high up on the gun, this thing just shot amazing.
And the way that you could really tell is when you would just, you know, pull up on a target and do like a double tap and really try to focus on how quick your gun can get back on target. The CZ was so much faster, which, again, was surprising because we really didn't think that it would be this much of a difference.
Yeah.
Because it's still considered a compact gun. It's not a full-size gun. So, you know, we thought that it would kind of be maybe third place in the lineup that we had because we had the Echelon and we had another more full-size gun. But it really outperformed what we were expecting. And I was very impressed with how well they did. And it was still 100% reliable.
Yep.
And both of them to this point have been 100% reliable. So, you know, I don't think you can go wrong. But, Joshua, in your opinion, which one are you going to recommend to our viewers?
This one's going to hurt, Connor, because there's been many videos we've done where I've chosen the Echelon as a winner.
Yep.
And for the first time, I'm going to have to say CZ-P10. Because, against the Echelon at least, because the price point for one, $499. Optic cut, okay, let's just go ahead and say $550. Because most people, well, I don't know, do most people run red dots? I would think most people do, I don't know. But I'm going to run a red dot on it, so I've already ordered my plate, right? So $550, throw a red dot on there. It performed way better than that one. I'm losing my modularity, but why do you need to be modular if it's already good? That just means that you need to change that to be better, right? No, but it just...
And we're never against buying another gun. So
no,
we're not really on that bandwagon of buy one gun and you have multiple frames for it and you can just... I'm okay buying an extra gun. I'm okay adding one to the collection.
Yeah. But, I mean, it just performs so well. And coming in cheaper than the Echelon, this might be one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest, ported/comped guns out there right now.
That's actually reliable.
That's actually reliable. We love the P10s anyways. This is the second gun I ever bought was a P10S. Yeah. So I'm very used to the triggers. They're just amazing guns. I might swap out the front sight for a tritium field. Yeah. But and throw a red dot on there, and that's the only upgrades I really need.
Yeah. I mean, surprisingly, like you said, I agree with you. You know, there's really
Why is that surprising that you agree with me?
Well, because the Echelon has been such a good gun.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that Springfield did with the Echelon that kind of just left other companies in the dust a little bit because everything that we normally ask for on a gun was on the Echelon.
Yeah.
You had a good trigger, you had a good frame, good stippling, you had spots for your thumbs to go to, you know, kind of reduce on the recoil. Everything, it's modular. Everything about the gun they did a great job on. And then they went and added a port. But just for me personally, and it may be because I have so much time shooting a P10C or a P10 series, I would have to gravitate towards the CZ just because of price point. By the time you order your optic plate, you're about $100 difference. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather put that extra $100 into some ammo to go take this thing out and shoot with it. And you got to look at it's a better performer.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it, you know, you're wanting a comped gun and that's what you care about is lower recoil, then you'd have to go with the one that would perform better, which would have been the CZ. But if it's important to you to have modularity and have the ability to put different optics on without having to change out, then the Echelon is still a wonderful option for you. And we would still 100% recommend the Echelon. But if you're going to compare the two for price point and performance, the CZ wins out, in my opinion.
And that's what we're learning is sometimes on paper, like this gun would blow this one out of the water.
Yep.
On paper for all the features that it has. But ultimately, when you actually go outside and or inside if you do an indoor range, and you actually shoot the guns, performance doesn't lie.
Yep.
And there's just something about these P10s, and then of course adding a port on top of that, they perform so well.
They did. Yep. But again, this is just our opinion, guys. This is just based off of what we have found through shooting the guns. If you guys have any questions about the guns, let us know down in the comment section. If you would like to see the CZ or the Echelon paired up against anything else to do a comparison, let us know down in the comment section. And make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.